We're live. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm super excited to be coming to you live today. I know it's been a while since you've actually had me come live. It is my honor, and you know, also going to have to salute this gentleman that I'm going to be bringing up on stage for us to chat with today. And to give you a little preface of what actually happened was, for those of you that know me, I was just kind of twiddling around on Facebook and something ran across my feed and I saw this gentleman. And next thing you know, there was a movement starting. And I just absolutely loved the way that this gentleman carried himself. And I said to myself, I said, I've got to reach out to this guy. And then come to find out after reaching out, he's actually a veteran. So makes it just that much better that I get the chance to have this conversation with him. So first off, I want to thank God and the universe allowing this to happen. Ultimately, that's the main importance there. But Mr. Brandon Burns is who I'm bringing today. I don't know a lot about him. I told him straight up, we're going to just have a nice little conversation. We're going to find out more about him because I know that currently right now he's going through a lot of challenges and he's doing speeches, but I want people to be able to know who the man is behind this little movement that we're doing and that everybody's getting so involved and engagement in. So if everybody would welcome Brandon.
How's it going, everybody? Thank you for having me on, Robert. Appreciate it.
Well, I want to thank you, man, ultimately for your time. I know you're super busy, especially with things that are happening right now. But as I mentioned, man, I had to reach out to you. I've been kind of a little bit quiet. We talked a little bit on the phone before. I'm a little cautious about what I say on Facebook, especially because I do run, business on Facebook. So I use the platform quite a bit. As there's a lot of censorship that's going on. So even now, this information that we're trying to share, I'm sure will get censored. But if you would, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you came from and what's your story, a little bit of background behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. So originally, I'm actually from Roswell, New Mexico. That's right, I'm an alien, so that's where I'm from. I spent the first couple of years of my life in Roswell. My father was in the Army for 25 years. He was a United States Army drill sergeant. He's a multiple tour veteran. He's been anywhere from Haiti to Bosnia, Iraq. And of course, I was also in the military myself. I served with the 4th Infantry Division. I did a tour in Iraq back in 2006, also during the Battle of Ramadi. I joined the Army when I was 17 years old, and because of my father being in the military, I got to live all over this country. I have lived in many different states, everything from North Carolina to Virginia, Louisiana, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada. And I really had a chance to see this country in a different perspective, which many other people do not. A lot of people live in one place their entire life, or very few places. And I've had the privilege of being able to live in the swamps of Louisiana, to the backwoods of Virginia and North Carolina, to the country lands of Texas, to the cities of Las Vegas. And I've really been able to see the melting pot of this country. And I've been able to blend in many different types of environments and in cultures. And it's really made me understand the differences of all of the Americans here. Originally, after I got out of the Army, I was in a bad IED explosion in a Bradley. Bradley is basically a tank. It's a 33-ton tank. Unfortunately, my lieutenant was killed when I was there, and we lost over 11 guys in my battalion. I was a weapons specialist. I also was the artillery forward observer, in which I would control direct air support and artillery rounds. And weapons is what I did. I got out of the military, and then I did a couple of civilian jobs until I eventually became one of the main security officers for a major nightclub here in Las Vegas. After being there for several years, I decided I wanted to pursue my passion in firearms. I started a company teaching people how to do concealed weapons training permits, and I became involved with the gun shop in Las Vegas, Nevada called Spartan Arms, in which I became the manager of the gun shop and very quickly became the face of the company, to a point where I'd even done several videos during COVID, which had been seen, tens of millions of times during the pandemic. And I became a well-known face in the community, especially teaching over 10,000 students. And I really do believe in the freedoms of life. I believe a lot of the laws of man are actually flawed, and I mostly believe in the freedoms of life. And You know, for the last 2.5 years, we've been stressed. You know, we have been forced to not have our lives anymore and have cloths over our face. And now we have this issue where dictators and tyrants of this country are trying to enforce their wills on us because of their own fears of COVID. And I had enough. You know, after they got rid of the mask mandates, within 2 weeks, I mean, they went right back. And I said, this is enough. I walked into the gun shop and I told the owner, I was like, hey, man, I know they're going to go back to masks next week, but I'm just going to let you know I'm not going to wear the mask. I let him know that, you know. And the next week I showed up and, you know, he's thinking, hey, man, you know, when you're outside, can you wear your mask? And my heart started beating really fast. And I said, this is it. This is the moment you take a stand. And I looked at them in the face and I said, no, I'm not going to wear it. I told you last week I was not going to wear it. They were hesitant at first because they are friends of mine and they do believe that we shouldn't have to do this as well. They're on my side. But of course, they're scared as well because they don't want the business shut down or being extorted by our governor. They want to be able to have paychecks for their families. But I took a stand and I told them, I was like, listen, you know, I am here to work and I am here to do my job. I will not quit. I will not walk out of this store. Either you let me stay here with no mask, you're going to have to send me home. And for several hours, it was very intense at the shop. The emotions were a little high, and it came down to a decision to where they had to send me home. And not only did they send me home, I had a friend of mine who was there that day, and he also took a stand with me. A lot of people don't know about him. His name is Lakota. He's also a former Air Force gentleman as well. And he, at the same time, were also sent home. So both of us actually stood up for what we believed in and walked out of that shop. And I went home, and just for 2 days, I was just like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to make money? You know, I'll figure this out, but I'm going to stand for what I believe in. And then slowly I got a phone call. Coincidentally, it was from a friend of the gun shop owner. And the gun shop owner was talking to him, and this guy was fed up. He says, hey, man, you know, I heard what you did. You know, I posted a video. It was seen like 10,000 times about why I quit. And this guy's like, I saw what you did. We need to do something. He's like, are you willing to maybe protest at the governor's building? I'm not a protester, you know? And I thought about it for about a couple of seconds. And I said, you know what? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this. Let's do something. And as soon as I got off the phone, I immediately just went and created a Facebook page. And just because of my connections in this city and being so well known and teaching so many different people, it just grew like wildfire. I mean, there was a lot of little organizations that were already doing this and popping up, but just something that I did gravitated people to the movement, and it grew massive. I mean, we are just over a week of starting this, and there's over 30,000 people in our group. And that's just who's in the group, let alone all the people who don't have Facebook and the family members who are following through their Facebook. At this point, there's millions of people that know about this movement. I had a lady running for U.S. Senate. I had the gentleman running for governor and lieutenant governor. I had so many companies and organizations calling me, and it just grew. And I decided to keep the fire. I mean, somebody needed to be a face. Somebody needed to be the voice. Somebody had to stand up and give people courage to do this and let them know that they're not alone. And we're not going to stand for this anymore. We're not telling you what we want anymore. I mean, we're not asking. We're telling you how this is going to be. We are not going to have your will of life imposed on us, plain and simple. I mean, this is a free country. And I started the idea of freedom of choice because I believe that we are all Americans, and all Americans should have their choices equally respected. We don't have to agree, but we don't have to argue either, and we don't have to enforce our will on each other. And I wanted to do this unlike anything ever before. All the arguments up until now has been no masks, masks are not okay, don't wear a mask, rip your mask off, take it off. And on the other side is wear a mask, you get the vaccination, and we're just fighting. And fighting is never going to do anything. Negativity is just going to get more negativity. And I decided that we needed to do a pro-freedom of choice movement because we have to find the common ground we can all bond behind. And the majority of people in this country believe that you shouldn't have anything forced upon you. You shouldn't be extorted to make this decision and have the threat of losing your life or your job or being fined. And even a lot of the masked and vaccinated people that I've talked to, almost every single one of them actually has been like, yeah, it's my choice to get the vax. It's my choice to get the mask. But I don't think you should have to. And I was like, that's it. That is the common ground. This is how we fix this. This is how we get this going. And it's just grown into a massive movement. And that's where we are today. Go ahead.
Oh, that's quite good. Oh, no, you're fine, brother. Like I said, this platform is for you. I mean, and I want to hear all about it. And like I was getting ready to say, just in general, that's a lot, man. That's a lot to take on, especially within a short frame of time. And as you were talking and introducing yourself, I wanted to point out that I know all about the Bradley. I was actually a driver and a gunner on it. I was afraid that it would be my LT or somebody else that would get me killed, sadly.
Yeah.
So I've had my experience as well as you. I mean, I don't believe in coincidences, and I believe that there's a reason that we connected as well. Now I see more as you speak and as you go on to tell more about your story. So again, I'm super excited and thank you for taking the time with us. But so where do you see things going now? Like I know that you recently went into, or actually let me back up. Where have you been? What's transpired over the past few days? Because I know that you've been extremely busy.
Yes.
Let's
So,
talk.
my Facebook group actually started growing by the thousands relatively quickly. Very shortly afterwards, I had a lady who represents the Clark County School District Board and teachers here in the state of Las Vegas reach out to me. And she said, hey, I saw what you're doing. I saw your movement. And I have a group of about 900 teachers at minimum who are willing to walk out and call off to join your protest. So I decided to meet with these ladies, and I had a secret meeting in one of their houses. And there was a group of about 9 teachers and secretaries and organizers who were Clark County School District employees. And they have been in connection with hundreds upon thousands of other teachers and employees who are secretly talking about calling off and doing something about this because they know that Governor Sisolak is trying to mandate the vaccine and force it on them. And this is wrong. This is straight dictatorship. And after that, I made a video explaining how I was in secret communication with some teachers that they were going to call off. And I posted it, and a couple of people on TikTok actually posted it, and it spread hundreds of thousands of times. And I had so many people reaching out to me. I started having healthcare workers and fire department and regular everyday workers reach out to me, and they're like, we're with you. We want to do something. Let's do this. And over the next couple of days, we just started sharing and liking and tagging and growing the movement. And then one day I was going over all my connections, and I'm thinking of who are the most influential people I know that can help get the word out there. And I was on Facebook, and then the picture of the Hodge twins popped up, Keith and Kevin Hodge. And Keith and Kevin are actually friends of mine. I actually taught them and their wives how to get their concealed weapons permit when they moved here to Las Vegas. And they've actually bought a lot of guns for me from home defense. And as soon as they popped up, I was like, why the hell did I think to call Kevin? So I got on the phone and I texted Kevin real fast. I was like, Kevin, I need you to call me ASAP if this is of extreme importance. He's like, all right, give me 15 minutes. So 15 minutes later, he calls me and he's like, hey, what's up, brother? I was like, bro, I need you and your brother's help more than ever before. I started something and it is massive. And I was like, I need you fast. I told him what was happening, and he was like, oh, yeah, man, I'm all about this. So he's like, when we do show, I was like, can we do one tomorrow? So I went to their office, and then Kevin and Keith and I, we did a little video, both for the nationwide protest and then also for a little section on Afghanistan, because they wanted to talk about Afghanistan. I've been to Iraq, so they wanted my perspective. So it was 2 different shows. And they have 2.4 million followers just on Instagram alone. And when that video spread, oh my God, did this movement grow faster than before? I mean, we went from probably 2,000 members to 30,000 members in 5 days. Like, it was insane. And so many people started reaching out to me. All my accounts started growing. And then from there, I had podcasts, I had news organizations, not the big ones, contact me. And then the school board meeting popped up. And we went to the school board meeting, and man, I just let them have it. I had no prepared speech, actually, on the first one. I actually showed up. I spoke from the heart. I said what I wanted to say. And then Kevin and Keith Hodge actually posted my little video or my speech to the Clark County District's board members. And I mean, Keith and Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe the video that they posted on their Instagram account was the most seen video that they've ever had on their account. And it just grew massive. And then, of course, after we did the first meeting, the next day, the school board called an emergency meeting to vote on the vaccination 6 days before the protest. We scared the shit out of them, and we know it. And that's why they tried to do that. They were trying to stop this ahead of time because they were scared, because the protest and the call off got mentioned. They had no idea about it. And then they had the meeting on the 1st, which was a 1 p.m. meeting. I did a speech then, and then they had the vaccination mandatory meeting at the later afternoon. I also did a speech then as well. And I'm telling you, buddy, there was at least 1,000 people there easy at this board meeting. They had over 150, 200 speakers there, and only three of the 150 plus speakers were in alignment with the mandatory vaccination. Only three. The majority of the people were protesting and throwing up signs and clapping, and they said the Pledge of Allegiance, and that was the most incredible Pledge of Allegiance I've ever seen in my life. These people were screaming the Pledge of Allegiance to these people's faces. And of course, the local media channels out here, the Fox 5 and Fox 3, they only showed a couple of the people that were for the mandatory vaccine on the news channels. But the one thing they could not stop is they could not stop everybody's cell phone footage. They could not stop the spread of social media of what actually happened there. And each one of these individuals who spoke in opposition represents at least 1,000 to 10,000 other individuals that could not actually make it to the protest. The majority is speaking, but the majority is also scared, and they're silent. They don't know what to do. They're in fear of losing their job. They're in fear of having their face out there and being fired. We have to give them courage. This is time to stand up, and we are showing them that we are affecting changes. The school board had already made their decision before we even showed up. And one of the things that we saw was there was two individuals at the meeting. One of the individuals at the meeting said that they were ready to hire 4 more employees to help combat the religious and health exemptions. And there was one lady saying they were working with a company to help bring in 4 different booths for vaccinations. Why did they already have a company ready to bring in 4 booths for vaccinations? And why were they ready to hire 4 more individuals to help keep up with the paperwork if they did not already have their decision made up? We're not dumb. We saw this, and people are seeing right through it. And yeah, that was yesterday. I was there for 12 and a half hours. And I finally got home, and I've been up all night. I contacted web designers, met with a couple of firefighters this morning who represent about 200 firefighters who are also calling off, and they also have the ability to get us on 2 billboards on the Las Vegas Strip. So today has been nothing about setting up the company, the funding, getting the apparel line set up, and then tomorrow we're also going to be setting up a nonprofit organization. It'll take about a week or so to get officially set up, but I'm also a licensed business already, so I can start accepting funds to fund the cause. So.
Dude, that's amazing. Like I said, that's just a lot to take in. I guess we kind of have to go that route of the nonprofit or whatever, but even still, I think that's fantastic. At least this way, people like ourselves, maybe that don't know what else to do, they can at least kind of give to the cause, if nothing else. I mentioned before we got on this thing, I think I mentioned it when we started. I have quite a voice normally, but I've been a little concerned and worried myself, even though I'm a veteran, 53 years old, about just publicly saying too much on Facebook because I do business online. I work from home. So that's been a blessing for me in many facts because, I haven't had to worry about my employer trying to tell me that I needed to wear a mask. And ever since the very beginning, I've been completely opposed. I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes while we're on this webinar, but, I have my own perceptions. And if you want to talk about that, we can. We can talk about the whole mafia, all that other jazz. But either way, even when this all came about, before it happened, I knew something was going to happen. Something was going on. Something told me something wasn't right based off of what I was seeing out there. So I lucked out, and I ended up being up in the Colorado mountains with a buddy of mine right before all that nonsense started. So I luckily didn't have a lot of effects of that until had to start going into town, right? And then everybody's masking up. Uh, Once I ended up coming back here to Texas, it was nice to hear that they were removing the mask restrictions. And then now, as of a couple weeks ago, they went back to it. And it pisses me off. I mean, every time I go into like a Walmart or something like that, I want that cop to hear me. This, blankety blank, 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 wear a stupid mask. And there's been a time too to where we've walked into Walmart again, and my queen didn't have a mask, so I asked them. I said, "Hey, do you have a mask?" No, sorry, we're not. We're out at that time. Well, from my perspective, if you're going to require a mask, especially in your business, then you need to give us the mask that you require, right? And that's beyond the whole freedom of choice and what you're talking about. But obviously, going to the school board, you have a family, you have a daughter, I believe. So these are things that are obviously very important at such a ground level. What do you hope to actually gain? I mean, I know this sounds like a broad question, but based off of what's happening now, where do you see things going? Like, what do you hope to gain out of this?
So to be honest with you, it's not a matter of hope. It's something I believe is going to happen. It's going to affect change. I tell people, wait, this is not wishful thinking anymore. Later on, we can talk more stuff about this in other interviews, but I'm not actually very religious, but I'm very spiritual, and I do believe in a higher power. I'm actually very scientific. I dive heavily into the laws of chemistry, biology, and chemistry. I'm definitely a believer in the laws of vibration, gestation, everything like that. So, to the core of my beliefs, it's not a matter of I hope it happens. It's I believe it happens. It's already happened. We have it. We're fighting for it now. We're growing it. The seed has been planted. We're just continuing to grow that plant. What I want to happen is I want the true freedoms to be honored and respected. The country has a good idea. The Bill of Rights, the 10% amendments are, in my opinion, where they are the country in this world, are the closest laws of man that match the laws of life. I started saying the word, freedom of choice, and it got me thinking, what actually is freedom of choice? Everybody wants freedom. We live in a free country. What is freedom? Well, the freedom is the ability to choose. And if you actually look up the definition of freedom on Google right now, you will see that it is the ability to make a free choice. The First Amendment, you have the ability to say the things that you want to say. With religion, you can make a choice to practice whatever religion you want. With the Second Amendment, you can choose to defend yourself or choose not to. You can choose to have a well-regulated militia. The Fourth Amendment, the right to search and seizure, you can choose to let somebody search your house. You can choose to not let them search your house. The Fifth Amendment, you can choose to stay silent. Everything is about choice. And there's no more greater choice than allowing me to choose what I want to put in my body and not put in my body. You're not going to extort us because they know that they cannot make this the law. You cannot make it a law that people get a vaccination. So the only thing that they have found out that they can attempt to do is extort businesses. And the definition of extortion is forcing involuntary decisions on somebody by way of threat, whether that be physical, mental, or emotional threat. Now, they're definitely trying to emotionally threaten you. There are some people out there who are physically threatening you. And then the biggest one is the financial threat. Well, since we as governors cannot make it the law that you get a vaccine or cannot make it the law that you wear a mask on your face, I'm going to go to businesses and I'm going to extort them. And I'm going to say, if you don't tell your customers and your employees to do this, I'm going to fine you and I'm going to shut your business down. That is the fear that they are creating. And that is the definition of extortion. And that's how they're trying to get this to work. And the people see this and they're fed up, So at the end of the day, the power does come to the people. And the power comes from no longer being silent, by standing up, by making your voices heard, and by showing the higher ups in this country that they need us and that we are the infrastructure. We are what make this country go round. We do the work. We drive the trucks. We drop off the supplies. The nursing and medical staff, they are the one that provide the medical aid to people. The teachers are the one who teach the students. They can't do it without us. A lot of people always talk about how they hate the government and they hate the government this and the government that. But I've been telling people to retrain your brain on what it is and who it is that you actually hate. And who you actually hate is about 1,000 people. That's it. That about 1,000 people specifically, and they're in the House of Representatives, the Senate, Congress, and it's a couple of millionaires and billionaires and CEOs that are running countries. They are the people that you hate. And when there's 360 million of us in this country, and you put so much weight on our backs that our backs have snapped, it's time to kick you off. We didn't start this fight. They started this fight. We're just swinging back, and it's time to defend ourselves. And it's time to stop being scared. It's okay to be scared. Use that fear. You know, don't let them use it against you. Use it to build up that courage, to build up your energy to stand together. People are standing up. People are finally getting the courage. I told people that if you were comfortable where you were at, you are not growing. It is time to step outside of your comfort zone. It is time to do something you thought that you never could do. I never thought in a million years that 2 weeks ago, I would have started a nationwide protest. Okay? You guys have that power. You just have to be willing to stand up and fight for it. And I'm here to give people courage.
I'll say I think that was very eloquently put. Very well said, my brother. Because, you know, from my perspective and things that I've seen, again, listening to you talk, I know exactly why we connected. So many similarities, especially when it comes to the things that you mentioned. As I talked off camera, my universe works a specific way, right? So with all of these things happening, my concern, again, without going too far down the rabbit hole, I can see this kind of, and again, these are my own words, I can see something like this being so big as if it were a revolution, but without having to, you know, resort to violence and guns and stuff like that. My concern when I look at it, two things, actually. Not just the day off, we could talk about those separately, but I do wonder, you know, if everybody does, not if, when everybody does take part in this, I'm just hoping that people aren't in the background doing stupid things and meeting those people of importance that won't be there. If you understand what I mean by that. Secondly, I think too, like, I know that if we all mass together, like what we're talking about doing, I believe same way you do, we can create that change, right? But what happens, my question and logic is what I'm trying to figure out is what happens and how do we get those people that are at the top, out of the top, when they're the ones that have all of the resources, minus us, the people. Because we know, you and I know, it's always been that they've been afraid of us, the people. We've known that, right? And now we're finally being able to come together, regardless, black, white, Chinese, polka dot, I don't care. I'm sure you don't either, right?
Yeah.
But those are my two concerns. Like, I want people to know what the plan is, how they can get involved, and then what your thoughts are on that to add, hopefully.
Yeah, of course. You know, well, first and foremost, the number one thing that we have to do is we have to bond together. And that's the first thing that we're doing. We're standing together. We're speaking to each other. We're respecting each other's choices, whether you want to wear a mask or not, whether you want to get a vax or not. That is the key thing we have to do is we have to start coming together. We cannot argue anymore. Like, if somebody believes that the vaccine is bad and that masks are bad, they already believe that, and you're not going to convince them otherwise. And it's the same thing, vice versa. You are already convinced that way. So the arguments and trying to send them facts and send them articles and send them videos, and you know that COVID can fit through that, right? You know that the COVID can kill you, right? They don't care. You know, they already believe what they believe. But I definitely do believe that the majority of us on this planet don't believe that anything should have to be forced on you. And that's the first thing we're going to focus on, that we do have a common ground. We do have a common cause. We're just humans. You know, we want to live our life without segregation. So first and foremost, we need to do that. We have to have respect. It's called PLUR. You know, it's peace, love, unity, and respect. And we have to focus on those four things and stop the fighting. And once we start to do that, we're going to come together under a common ground. And the next thing is education. We have to continue to educate everybody about what is actually going on, who's actually making the choices, and educating them and showing them the power that they actually have to affect change. You know, first and foremost, I'm telling you right now, September 7th, that is going to cause problems. And there's going to be major changes going to take place because of it, because of the millions of people that are going to protest in this country. They're going to shut this country down. They're going to stop buying stuff. They're not going to work. They're going to show the cities and the states how they can't do it without them, especially how many states are underfunded and underemployed as it is. So that's the first thing that we have to do. Now, I'm a soldier. Okay, everything is going to be about the the ROE, the rules of engagement, right? You swing first, I swing back. You yell at me first, I yell back. You throw a rock, I throw a rock back. I don't want violence. Okay, violence is the absolute, absolute, absolute last resort. But this still is the rules of engagement. Okay, they've started to swing on us, and now we're going to swing back. Now, all we're doing is defending ourselves. We are not acting in an offensive manner. We are acting in a defensive manner. Now, I've been hesitant to say this, but it must be said. Yes, we have freedom of speech, and we have the freedom to protest, and we have all the 10 amendments. But there's one amendment that is there specifically that when you do not listen to us and you try to enforce your will on us, we will use that amendment to make sure that we have the other ones. And that one's called the Second Amendment. And that's not off the table, but that is the last resort. There's no secret that Americans own about 48% of the 1+ billion guns on this planet. The Japanese admiral in the military during World War II said that behind every blade of grass is an American with a firearm. We will never invade the mainland. We took an oath to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And there's a lot of domestic terrorists here in this country right now, especially when they're trying to enforce our will on us. I call for peace. I call for love and unity and respect. But it's not off the table. You push us too far, we're going to push back. Okay? So let's keep our minds clear. Let's keep our goals clear. Let's bond under unity. Let's bond under a common cause. Let's educate people on who's making these decisions, who's being bought, who's being paid off, and who's just trying to enforce their will on us because of their own fears. Okay? We can use social media and the internet to our advantage. Now, the social media we all know is a terrible thing. It's the devil. They're using it. They're controlling it. They're pulling down posts. But it is also our best tool. There's one good thing that I like about social media, other than it basically being a digital phone book. Once a video has been recorded and it gets put on the internet and it gets spread millions and millions of times, even if Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or Snapchat, even if they take it down, there's one thing they can't take away. And that's the fact that you've already seen it. And the information has already been processed. And people see this. We live in the craziest time in human history when we have more access to information than we ever have before, and that's the internet. And people have been shut down for 2 years. And they have been doing their research. They have been on the internet. They have been reading articles. They have been seeing videos. The mainstream media is trying to convince us that we are divided. When in reality, we are not that divided. We're actually more united than ever before. But they are trying to convince us that we are divided. They are trying to convince us that we are separated. They want us to fight. They want us to have segregation. Don't let it work. See through this smoke and mirrors. Be smart, And this is how we're going to do this. And this is how we're going to affect change, by coming together. And we're all going to use our resources to back each other. I'm not good at everything. I am average at best, and I am flawed like the rest. I'm just a regular American man. But we all have the power to do something here. If you're a healthcare worker, sacrifices got to be made. You can call off work, and then this hospitals will be struggling. If you're a teacher, you can call off work, and students will be stuck at schools, and principals will have to force to call parents because of classrooms cram-packed full, and they just can't watch everybody. If you're a trucker, call off work and shut your supply line down. See what happens when the people of this world who offer some kind of service no longer offer that service. I've had a lot of Americans out here who believe in my movement saying, I am willing to deal with the suffering. I am willing to take the hit. I'm willing to lose the money. Losing a little bit of money and a little bit of comfort is worth affecting a lifetime of change. Nobody said this was going to be easy. And we got to put some work in, and we have to bond together. And when things get tough, I like to tell people this: we're going to get resistance. We're going to get people fighting us. But think about this. The faster a car starts to travel down the road, the more wind resistance it's going to get on the windshield. So the more resistance we're getting, the faster we're going. So we're going to be doing great.
That's a good way of looking at it. But how do we go? Let's say we do all this stuff. I want to see the same thing that you and everybody else wants to see, which is the knuckleheads up at the top actually out of there.
Of course. So
getting so political, I know that a lot of us had a lot of faith in a specific president that, with the cat in the background, she's saying hi, had specific faith in a president. And I believe truly, and with what I've heard and learned, I think that a lot of people were expecting things to be a little bit different, for somebody to come in and actually rescue the world. And that didn't happen. So people are like shocked and they don't know what to do. And, there's this world of thoughts going through people's heads. So for me, again, seeing what you're doing, I had to get behind this, had to start using my voice, if you will. So where do we go from here? What's beyond?
Yeah. So let me explain something like this real fast. And I know what you're saying, like with Trump, right? People wanted to come in and they wanted him to fix everything. Well, that was the mistake that you Americans made. Now, listen, I voted for Trump. Don't get me wrong. I mean, when it came down to it, there was only two available options, and I decided to pick what I thought was going to be the best available option. He's not the best political speaker. He's definitely a little bit of a narcissistic. He definitely had a mouth on him. But overall, the guy had a good goal. Okay, he had a goal of just taking care of this country, because once you're a billionaire, what else can you achieve? Well, if I'm a billionaire and I'm a narcissistic and I represent America, well, I want my country to be successful and I want my country to be good, because that represents my look. So he had a lot of good stuff, and he pissed a lot of people off that had their own self-interests involved. And that's why the media tried so hard to smear him. Now I'm telling America, this is what you guys did wrong. You wanted to rely on one person to fix it for you. You wanted one guy to do it for you. You thought this one guy was going to come in and clean up this country for you. The power didn't lie with one guy. And a president is just a temporary government employee for 4, maybe 8 years. That's all he is, a temporary government employee for 4 to 8 years. Doesn't even get all the secrets of the Department of Defense and military and everything like that. Where is that power? The power is you. It's him. It's her. It's the people of this country that is going to stand together and affect that change. We don't need to rely on one person to make that change. We have to rely on ourselves to come together to affect this change by using our powers, which I've been talking about. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is, of course, ROE, rules of engagement, right? We're going to express our freedom of speech. We're going to make our voices known. We will have our faces seen. We will be in the streets. We will shut the country down. We will affect change. And the next thing is legal action. And it's time to start a massive, massive movement of attorneys and lawyers in this country to file lawsuits and legal actions on all these people who are trying to implement their will on us. We need to sue the hell out of these people who are trying to do it. And this is where the education comes in. And I'm reaching out to all patriotic lawyers that are truly in the idea of freedom of choice to come together, and we need to file and represent these people for free. And if you don't want to represent them for free, I ask that you only take money the moment you actually win your lawsuit. And don't just think about the big higher-ups. Don't just try to sue the CEO of Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson. I'm talking about that principal or that teacher that's in a classroom who's talking about Antifa or communist values, or she's showing CNN in class, or she's trying to show her own religious or his own religious beliefs and his own political views. Report these people. Find out who these people are. Find an attorney and sue these individuals personally. And then when enough of these people see what we are willing to do to fight back, it's going to start to change. Now, that's the next step. Now, I can't see too far in the future, but that's the next thing we've got to do. If it gets there and the legal actions don't work, then ROE, we're going to step up the rules of engagement. But that's in the future. The future is yet to happen. The past has already happened, so we can't focus on that. We only have one thing that we will ever have, and that's right here, right now. So we're going to focus on right here, right now, and what we're doing currently.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense, obviously. So back to the movement. I know that this is all, again, happening so fast, but I'm also seeing now, as you mentioned, you had a friend in Hawaii. There's all these pages popping up, which is great. In fact, I'm encouraging the people that I know to go to their local state freedom of choice pages. I don't know if they're all interconnected or connected just because of this movement.
Yeah,
I've seen a variation.
They're not. They're definitely not ran or run or even monitored by me. So as a disclaimer, I will say this to everybody on the internet: the only true freedom of choice page is going to be the Las Vegas freedom of choice page, and that's because it started here. Now, I do wish it could be America freedom of choice, but just because of the videos and everything that's been spread around and my page mentioned, I'm not going to change the name, because when people need to go search it, they're going to need to look for Las Vegas Freedom of Facebook. Plus, having a city instead of an American Facebook page will show you that things can start at a city level and it can grow to a nationwide and a worldwide event. So the only official Freedom of Choice page is Las Vegas Freedom of Choice Facebook page. So I encourage anybody to go there, like, tag, share, and invite your friends. I do want to tell all the other individuals who are creating the Louisiana Freedom of Choice, Arizona Freedom of Choice, thank you guys very much from the bottom of my heart. You know, this is definitely how we create change. There's over 30, 40, 50 pages of Freedom of Choice pages, and not all of them are in America. I'm seeing other ones from all over the world actually pop up now. So this has actually turned into a movement, not just an American thing. I do ask that you guys follow my lead, okay? I ask that you don't fight people who don't believe in your values or your way of life. I ask that you don't post a lot of political posts. I don't want to see pro-Trump. I don't want to see anti-Biden. I don't want to see a lot of articles of this is the truth and this is the truth. First and foremost, you got to understand that if you continue to do a lot of this stuff, Facebook's going to try to shut you down. So we need to keep these posts very, very neutral, very neutral. I want people to really, really try to dive into the psychology of the minds of people that don't believe in you, okay? Maybe the person that doesn't believe, or how should I say this? A person that's vaccinated or wears a mask that you're talking to, and they're very emotional, and they're mad that you're not wearing it and you didn't get the vaccination. Stop for a second. Maybe that person had their mom die from COVID. You know, maybe they had a friend pass away from COVID, and they're very emotional about this subject. And humans are extremely emotional creatures. And a lot of times we tend to think with our emotions instead of our logic. So those of us who are, you know, a little bit more in control of our emotions and we are thinking a little bit more clearly with our logic, we need to understand that maybe that's what happened to them. You know, and they're not going to align with you no matter what you say, especially when they had to bury their mom or bury their dad or their brother or sister. You know, we have to really try to understand the point of view of the other side. You know, empathy is what must take place. Remember, peace, love, unity, respect the other side. So as long as they are not trying to harm you, steal from you, or enforce their will of life on you by way of threat, emotional threat, physical threat, or financial threat, that is the true freedom right there. As long as you can let me do and express whatever I want with my body, I'm cool. Don't stop me from seeing the things I want to see, or smelling the things I want to smell, eating or tasting the things I want, listening to the things I want, and don't touch my body. And then don't try to force me to have anything in my body. Because if you do, rules of engagement, you try to stick something in my body, I'm going to defend myself.
Right. Well, you know, one thing that I've said for many years, brother, is, you know, along the lines of our freedom and respect in general, I've said, you know, your rights begin where mine end and vice versa. You know, I've said that for many, many years. And a lot of people understand that. And sometimes they'll look at me like, what's that mean? You know, but I'm of the same mindset. And I know you don't know me very well, but the psychology is one thing that I dive very deeply into. Those people that know well. But we have to be looking at both sides. There's always two sides of the coin, man. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I say that type of thing all the time. You know what that story is, or try to put yourself in that other person's shoes. Just as if, you know, I hate to say it this way, just as if civilians don't really know what it's like to be a soldier unless they've had that type of life. It's really, it's not the most glamorous, man. I could say that. You know, and there's a lot of, without going down the rabbit hole too deep, there's a lot of psychosis and things that happens, especially when it comes to building up a soldier or a true soldier. So I believe that we do have an upper hand because of how we handle things. We're prepared for, you know, combatic situations. But for the normal civilian, especially somebody that has been brainwashed, you know, it's obviously a little bit harder to get into their mindset or their psyche. So as Brandon's saying, I echo what you're saying. And take the time to try to understand what they might be going through without having that combative thing. A good thing to do is open up a dialogue and actually have questions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually something I'm doing here a little bit later today. I'm going to be walking the Las Vegas Strip with a camera crew. I'm going to be doing a interview, and I'm going to be doing interviews of only masked people and only vaccinated people. Um, I want to show the world that we are really not that different. And I actually just did this at a big speech at the rally yesterday, and I told people, if you guys see somebody wearing masks or we're at the rallies, don't yell at people to take their mask off. That's their choice. They don't want to hear you yelling at them to take their mask off, especially if they believe in it. I want us to think about this differently. And I told them, let's do this. And I encourage anybody out there to give this a try. I mean, it might go a little sour, but if it is, just walk away. But if you see somebody with a mask on, I want you to walk up to them and in a very calm and polite manner, ask them this question. Can I ask you a question? Do you want to wear that mask? And do you want to wear it? And they're probably going to say yes because they're wearing it. And if they actually say that they want to wear it, I might recommend that you reach out and try to shake your hand and like, you know what? I want to thank you because that's your choice. And I want to ask you a question. Do you think that I should be forced to wear a mask or forced to get a vaccine? Guarantee the majority of them are going to say, no, I don't think you should be forced to. I have tons of vaccinated people on my page. I have tons of mask wearers on my page. And they all say the same thing. Yeah, I got it. I thought it was the best choice for me and my family, but you shouldn't have to be forced to. That's it. That's the common ground. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some people out there that are just like, I'll say it like it is because I'm an infantryman, so, curse words are part of my vocabulary. They don't give a what you believe. And they definitely think that their will should be enforced on you. And honestly, that small group of people, that is who we are really fighting. Those are the true dictators. Those are the true tyrants. Those people that are in line with, I'm going to have my way of life enforced on you because of my fear, those are our real true enemies. Everybody that wears a mask and everybody that has a vaccine is not necessarily our enemy. Okay? We like the same foods. We probably both watch Game of Thrones or Rick and Morty or Family Guy. We both go to McDonald's and Popeye's Chicken. We shop at Walmart and Kohl's. We drive the same cars. We both wear the same pair of Vans. You love your kids like I love my kids. We're not so different, you and I, And let's stop the separation. I mentioned segregation at the board meetings. And the definition of segregation is separating something or someone from others. And this is still segregation, segregation of masked and unmasked and vaccinated and unvaccinated. And segregation still at its core is wrong. We have to stop segregation. Now, there's other segregation we have to work on still. We definitely have to work on the segregation of racism, blacks and whites and gays and straights. We just need to be Americans. We just need to be humans. And this is how we do this. We have to change the mindset and the heart of this country and help them focus on who our true enemies actually are.
Right. Well, on that point, again, just every time we're talking, just so many similarities, my brother is an EMT, so he's out there on the front lines and he's experiencing what's going on at the same token, so we have our conversation. He has gotten the vaccine. However, he has a reason to get it, right? And when we're having our conversation, my only concern is I don't know what's in it, right? I have no idea. So I'm not going to go and take somebody's word for something, not to mention the fact that I've never been pro inoculation, anything. The only shots that I ever got was when I was a kid. And then, of course, anything that I had in the military that I had to have going overseas, So I started this conversation with him, and he's telling me, it's too late for me, buddy. He said, but it didn't do anything. It didn't make me any taller. It didn't make my hair grow. And we laugh about that. And, obviously, brother to brother, he has the respect that I'm not going to touch it. And I have the respect that he did. Again, my only fear when it comes to that on the family side is I just hope that there isn't anything that's in there that we hear about in the background that all of a sudden you're going to have a bunch of people pass away from blood clots or these other things that we hear, right? So on that point, it's difficult for me to even try to get engaged or involved in doing something like that to my body when I don't know what it is.
We can get into conspiracy theories all day and everything, but of one thing of the situation, there is an absolute one fact that is an undeniable fact, no matter who you are, we don't know long-term effects. because we have not had time to see what the long-term effects are. So that is a number one standing fact that nobody can argue. We don't know long-term effects. And you can't argue that we can know what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years, because we are not 5 to 10 years out. The other thing is we are just animals. That's all we are. I mean, humans are just animals. We are a very intelligent animal that has consciousness and emotion, but we're just animals. You know, we have hearts and lungs and skin and organs just like many other animals. And biologically, because remember, you know, the universe is based off of 3 basic principles. We have biology, chemistry, and physics. And biologically, we are not all the same. You know, we have different sexes, ages, races, injuries, different pre-existing conditions. And what one vaccine would do for somebody will not necessarily do the same thing for somebody else. It's not going to have the same effect. And I hope nothing ever happens. And for some people, the vaccine may actually work, but it is a fact that it can absolutely kill somebody else. You know, I compared this to a peanut or a food allergy. You know, that's just consumption of a chemical, you know, or a molecule, if you will, because, you know, everything's based off of molecules. A vaccine's a molecule, a peanut's a molecule. I put certain molecules in my body and I'm going to have a different chemical reaction than other people. And you eat a peanut, you break out in hives, you close up your airway, you die. I eat a peanut, have a good time, I enjoy it, you know? So we cannot assume that what is going to work for somebody else is going to work the same. And if I have questions and I have doubts that this might cause major injury or death to me, I'm not going to take it, plain and simple. And that is my choice. And that choice should be honored, which will be honored whether you want to fight for it or not, because this is our freedom, you know? The vaccines, and don't get me wrong, I was in the military too. You know, I got all the vaccines. I got anthrax, I got smallpox, Hep A, Hep B, all this good stuff, you know? So I'm not an anti-vaxxer. But there's something different about this vaccination, unlike any other vaccination before. In the past, the medical industry truly found a disease and they truly focused on a real vaccine to actually fix that disease. And then in the past, we've had vaccines that didn't work, that killed people. We pulled them immediately. But this is the first time in human history where the vaccine is being used for political gain and political control and financial gain. And we see that, you know, because of the past, we didn't have internet, we didn't have social media or Facebook, but now we do. And they're trying to use this influence, especially when we believe that this is man-made, man-altered, or man-released. This is not like anything before.
And see, on that note, I can't help but think of history, and Nuremberg trials kind of pops up into my head with all this.
Absolutely, the Nuremberg trial, and they want to try to mandate it. We'll bring it up under the Nuremberg trial.
So, well, then that's a good thing. You know, if we look at it from that perspective, right? So if all else fails, they don't go through that, then let's bring up Nuremberg trial.
Yeah. Like I said, legal action is going to be the first things that have to be attempted. Rules of engagement. We take it to the steps and we go from there.
What kind of things, before we close it up, because I know you're limited on time, what kind of things should people be looking for? What kind of things should people be recording? I know you mentioned earlier what not to record, you know, not to be political or whatnot, pro this or.
Yeah, so what I want to do is I want you to look for people working together. You know, film yourself in a business where you see people with masks and no masks, and look how you guys are all shopping together without fighting and you're working in unity. Look at the schools where you guys pick up your kids together in unity without fighting or causing emotions or issues. One's wearing a mask, one's not wearing a mask. We can work as a society by respecting both choices. Look for the people who are actually writing these statutes and writing these mandates, and let's focus our attention on the people who are trying to do this to us and refocus our plan and our strategy towards them. Search for attorneys who are in line with our way of thinking and people who are willing to represent you. Joey Gilbert, running for the governor of Nevada, is also an attorney, and he's representing many, many people for free under these lawsuits. I don't know if you saw this, but there was a gentleman, he's a young kid, he actually climbed one of the casinos here. He climbed 60 stories in protest of the mask mandates, and he was arrested. Yeah, he's a young kid. He climbed, I believe, the Aria Hotel. He climbed 60 stories on the outside of the building in protest of the mask mandates. As soon as he got to the top, they arrested him, and Joey Gilbert was representing this guy for free. You know, that's what you guys can do. You know, that's where you can help. So we have to use all of our individual skill sets to help fund the cause. You know, if you're a social media designer, if you're an attorney, if you're an influencer, use your influence to bring people together. Use your legal bar exam to help represent these people. Use your abilities to help fund this cause. And don't stop, you know, don't stop talking. Keep the people talking, like, share, tag, email, talk at work. Let's keep the message going. Let's not be silenced. Don't let them silence us because they're trying to. So that would be my recommendation, what to do, and to keep peace and to respect everybody else's side. So this is what I would recommend.
Well, that's in direct alignment with all of my values, virtues, and beliefs. So the next thing happening is the 7th. Is there anything beyond that we know that we can?
I have one on the 13th as well. It started on the 13th, but the bigger one is going to be on September 7th. So just stay posted, and there's going to be many more after that. There's others around the country that are being started that I didn't even start. So just look for those protests. If you see anybody starting a protest that's in line with this, show up and show your support, and don't stop. Don't stop until this is over. The last thing that I'll say before we get off is I could definitely use people's support right now, because I am going to be starting an official full-on webpage, nonprofit organization, funding page, podcast. And unfortunately, we live in a society that works off the rule of currency. So while I have definitely been able to grow the movement quite organically, we definitely are looking for funding to help grow the cause. I, of course, recommend everybody go to my Facebook page, which is Las Vegas Freedom of Choice Facebook page. I just posted a GoFundMe section right there, so where people can help fund me to get everything up and running. And here very shortly, I got to check my messages, but I'm working with the t-shirt designer for my Freedom of Choice t-shirt shirts right there. You can see that. So yeah. I like that. So I got the Freedom of Choice shirts, hats, and apparel, which will be launched here very shortly within the next couple of hours. And you can also show your support by purchasing these products. We will use the funding to help support our cause, to grow the message, and to inform the masses, because education is going to be key to this, and we need that to educate people.
Well, as we move forward and, you know, grow within our relationship, brother, if there's anything that I can do to help out, obviously let me know. I do graphics and all that stuff, fun stuff online, web design. I got people. I know people.
Anybody reach out. I'm trying my best to keep an eye on my messages, but yeah, the more people that can get me on air or on video or on podcast or YouTube, the better.
Well, I've been telling everybody, at least, you know, especially lately, to go there to your Las Vegas Facebook page. So hopefully everybody will take note of that, and you might see this big influx, and we could take it from there. Because I did notice that there was supposed to have been something with the drivers. Something did get out there, but I don't think that the word got out there far enough or wide enough reach where it had the impact that we were looking for. So I'm looking for everybody to really get involved, especially on the 7th, if you have that type of position to where you can join in and you know, stand behind what this gentleman Brandon and everybody else is trying to do. Because ultimately, what it comes down to is we're trying to save our freaking. Trying to save our United States.
We're doing it.
Down to it.
You said there is no try. Do or do not. We're doing it.
Exactly. So with that being said, man, again, bless you, brother. I appreciate you for your time and your energy and everything that you're putting into this. You have thousands of people and even more that are good to just come on board and just completely embrace what you're doing. So I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for spending time with me. You know, you don't know me. You could have done something different. So for that, I appreciate you, brother.
Welcome. Of course. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. And let's stand together. This is all of us. We'll do this together.
Amen, brother. Appreciate your time, and we'll chat again soon, man.
All right, how do you? Bye.
Thanks so much for your time, brother. Bye.